Guys, I'm going to do something a little different today. We're going to talk about coils a little bit. Not really about how they work or anything like that, but just a routine repair that can be done to these that many people don't realize. Um, Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, this is what happens. And this is the way you find most of them when they get cracked around where the wire goes in. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah. They get cracked around where the wire comes out of the coil. And a lot of people think those are they need a new coil, but they really don't. And this is what you find, what kind of repair you usually find is just some silicone or something put on those. And I mean, you can do that and it'll probably work for quite a while longer, but it's not really the right thing to do. This is off a Yamaha here, but I'm actually working on one for a Suzuki. So let me show you that. Try to get you situated here where you can see. Okay, here's one I'm working on here, and this is what you usually find. Is you can see the wire is extended out. Now this one I've already pulled out and started the repair, and I'm just kind of gonna go through what you have to do. It's not normally an easy thing. I mean, it's not hard to do. You just have to have some perseverance and stay with it to get it done. But this is what you end up with, and that's why a lot of people will put silicone there. And it's not really I'm sure it works. I've done it, it works, but it's not the right thing. The right way to repair this is to just pull it out like that, and you see this long bunch of wire here. This is normally how it comes out, and the reason for that is that this casing is still stuck in here, and that's the hard part. You've got to get that out so you can get a new piece of wire in it. But you can see this is so hard and brittle. It's just, I mean, it's just going to crack. It's going to keep cracking. On the end here, where the boot is, this just screws off. Let me get this there. I don't know if you can see this or not, but let me get a light here maybe. See, there's a screw in the middle of that, and that just screws into the wire. It'll screw into right there where the wire comes out of the sheathing. It just screws right into the middle of that. You just screw it in until it gets firm, and that's good enough. And you've got the little boot there to keep the weather out of it. This one's broke, so it's going to get replaced. I don't have one yet, but that will be replaced. Now let's get back to this thing. Now this is off of the TC125 that I'm working on, and this is the best tool, but there's a combination of tools that's required, and you've got to get in there and pull it, and these things are durable enough that you can really get in there and pull on things. This was the last portion that came out of there, and it was pretty tough to get to. Now the way I start out is I take a Dremel, and there's usually this kind of some adhesive right around here, and I've already ground that off. And usually all you have to do is what I just showed you. You just pull this out. And this, like I say, this is usually how it comes out, and that's because this amount of the sheathing is still in here. Now, in this case, well, in all the cases I know of, there's a pin in the bottom here. And again, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this. I don't know. Anyway, down in the bottom of that hole, there is a spike sticking up. And it looks like this. This is where the plug wire goes in, and this is this area right here. And in the bottom, you have a spike sticking up. And the same as with this cap, you're going to push the wire into it. It's just going to push into it, and that's going to go right into where the wire is in the middle of the cable. Okay? So that's what you need to look for. Now there's a variety of ways that you can do this process, and it is a process. Kind of how I start out is I take a Dremel tool and I just trim off this adhesive right here. And then I go down into there about so far with my Dremel tool, maybe halfway, maybe a little less than half. And I just kind of hog that out. And you'll see all the rubber, and there shouldn't be any wire because you pulled the wire out. But the thing is, you don't want to damage the spike in the bottom of there. So once I kind of get it down, maybe halfway or so, I take a drill bit that is the closest that I can find to that hole. And I put this drill bit in a vise and just hold it that way. And I take the drill bit, put it in the hole, and just gently turn it, and it pulls more of this casing out. But you will eventually get to the spike, and it will not go any further. So that's about where we're at right there. So if I pull this out, that's how far on this particular coil that that's where the spike is. So it's right about here. Now, you've got, if you can't, what I do is I've got, I just buy this. I don't buy it very often because I've still got quite a bit. This is 7mm core or cable core wire. It's a copper stranded wire, and I've used it for automotive for years, and it's the same with these. And this is going to go into the bottom of there. If you can't get that thing into the bottom, okay, see, that's how far it goes right there. So if you can't get it in there to the bottom of that hole, there's something still in there. And what I end up doing is I take a straight scribe and I go in there and try to get under it and peel it away. Now be careful that you don't break this here. Don't pry that hard. Just get in there, kind of push down and force it between, it'll be between this and this casing. And you're just going to try to loosen that from the wall. And once you've done that, this, in my opinion, is the best tool, because these things are very hard and stringent, and they will hold up to that. And you can get in there all the way down there and just pull pieces of that out. Like I said, this was the bottom of it, and that's what I was doing. I was getting in here and pulling And like I say, I'd take the straight one and go down in between and try to loosen it from the wall of the coil here. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you stay with it and try not to get overly excited and break anything, you can do it. And all you have to do to fix that then is to replace your wire. And always cut it a little bit longer so that when you mount all this up before you put your boot on, so you can get the right length. You can get it over the head, get it over the spark plug, and find out exactly how much wire you need. So always leave yourself enough. And what I do is I clean this real good around here with alcohol, and then I figure out how much wire is actually going to go in the hole, and maybe the last quarter of an inch at the top here. I use JB Weld Quick. This, not affiliated with these people, that's just what I use because it works. And the only thing that that's going to do is keep it from pulling back out without quite a bit of pressure. It's going to take some effort to pull it out. You don't need this epoxy all the way to the bottom, and you don't want it all the way to the bottom. So, like I said, this is all the kind of stuff that came out, and you pull this out with this dental pick, and you can buy these on eBay. They've got them. You can get all different sizes and lengths and so on. But that one works very good for me. Another thing I do to find out how far down that pin is I'll just get me a T-square like this and go down, and that way I can set it. And that's where this one's set to. That is where the top of that spike is, right there. So just take your time and you can do this. And I'm going to show you that I always check them before I put them back together, and then I check them again once it's all glued up and before it goes into the bike. But I have a checker, and that's not something everybody has. Another thing is I just noticed here I've got kind of a bare spot here where the wire goes into the coil. You don't want to have that, and the best thing to use is a red insulating varnish. This is what they use on electric motors and whatnot to insulate windings. And just a little dab of that over that, painted on there. It's got a little brush on it, so you can just put a little dab on there, and that way if you happen to reach up there, you're not going to get bit, and it's going to insulate it and protect it so you don't have any moisture problems or that sort of thing. And again, that with the JB Weld up here, that's going to completely seal this too, so you're not going to have trouble with moisture getting in there. Now, I'm just going to go through a quick test here and kind of give you the gist of how we do this. You've only got two wires, well, three, that you need to be concerned with, and really with the bike you only have two, because the coil itself is going to ground to the frame just by virtue of you bolting it to it. But in this case, we're going to put the red wire on this is the coil, the wire going into the coil. So this is your voltage coming from your magneto, and this is just a ground. Like I say, that's going to be by virtue of being bolted to the frame. And I'm just going to take a piece of wire here. I've got an alligator clip on it, so it makes it easier for me to I'm just going to push that down into there, and in this case this is my hookup over here. Just gives me a way to hook it up easier. Okay, get everything plugged in here. I think we're good to go. Okay, right here is going to be my test point. I'm going to go ahead and crank it here. So you can see that that coil is working. That's a good hot spark. So that's going to work. When I pull this wire out and put the other wire in and glue it in, I'll do the same test again. And that's what I'm going to get. I know that coil is working. These kind of testers, I'm sure that they're not made anymore. This particular one is a Graham Lee electronics tester, and I found this one on eBay years ago. There are other kinds out there, but I've never found one that works as good, and this will test a lot of other stuff. It'll test your condensers. So, not that you really have to have one of those. I'm just showing you that if your coil is good before you took it apart and all you did was remove that wire, it's still good. That's my point. And I'm going to test it because I have a tester. But really all you've got to do is replace your wire and hook it up and start the motor. Because if it worked before, it's going to work after this. As long as you get this wire seated all the way down onto that spike inside. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut me a good length of wire, and I'm going to get it glued in there. Okay, again what I'm doing here is I'm just with a little isopropyl alcohol, I just clean this area really good, and down in here just about 1/4 inch probably. Just make sure everything's free of dirt and oil. And we'll let that dry a little bit. And I've got the JB Weld out here on the table, and we're mixing that up. It's, you know, just 1 part to 1 part. Just mix that up good. And then we're all dry here. First, I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to stick it up in there as far as I can get it, and then I'm going to mark it, pull it out. Now I'm going to blow this out real quick with some compressed air just to make sure it's all dry. Now compressed air is another way to get some of that the old casing and stuff out. When you go to grinding in there and tearing all that up, that's going to be a help also to blow some of those contaminants out of there. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of the isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to go up to my mark there and make sure that that also is grease and dirt free. And we'll let that dry, blow it off here a little bit. And then I'm going to add my sealer, my glue. It's not going to take a lot. And like I say, you don't want it all the way down there. And then just push this in. It's a good thing too to kind of orient this. In this particular case, this is oriented this way on the bike. So I'm going to turn this to where the droop, the natural curve here, goes toward where the head's going to be, which is right here. So that way you're not going against how it was rolled onto the spool. And then you can just take I don't think I even need to mess with it. It looks good to me. That's the way it kind of looks coming out of, from the factory. And we're just going to go with that. It's all stuck there, so we're going to allow that to dry with this quick, they say 15 minutes, but I think it's better to give it an hour before you really mess with it at all. And what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll check it again before we put it back on the bike. But doesn't that look a lot better than this? What would you want on your bike? So we're going to do this one too, but not right now. Okay, while I'm letting that set up, I've kind of got it blocked up so it doesn't set on the table. And I'm going to give this one little spot here a little coating of the insulating compound. And what I'll do is I'll let this dry and I'll give it another coat. And I'm going to go up onto the wire just a little bit to make sure that wire is completely covered where it comes out there. Okay, this dries pretty quick, but we're going to we'll probably give it an hour or two, and when this is dry, that'll be dry, and I can give that another little coat. And our coil should be good for a long time to go yet, because normally coils just don't go bad. A lot of people are always buying them, and they don't last long on eBay, but there's really, for most part, there's no reason to buy them, because these and the coils that are in your magneto, unless they get physical trauma somehow or another from a key, breaking a keyway out and the flywheel spins into them, or something else gets in there, or if these get dropped or something like that, that's the only time these things are going to go bad. They just rarely go bad. So anyhow, that's our repair on that. So don't be afraid of it. It's just a wire stuck in a coil. Pull the darn thing out, clean it out, put a new wire in there. That way you don't have that old cracking, crumbly wire that is probably when it's running at night, if you looked under the gas tank, you could see sparks under there, which wouldn't be a real good thing to have under your gas tank. So a lot of people do the repair like this, but that's not the way it should be done, and it's not the way I'm going to do it. But that is the way most of these coils are made, is that they have a little spike in the bottom, and that's, you just pull this out and you're going to put a new one on. Now this one here, you can see here that this wire had been rusted off on this one, and I actually soldered a new one on, and I'm going to have to put the varnish on this one too. But all that'll be after I repair this part. And I'm telling you that it takes, most of the time, a lot of just going in there with your pick and getting under that insulation and trying to peel it back from the coil itself. And just be careful that you don't break the coil by using it to pry in there. Push down and gently pry, and then get you a dental pick, and you should be able to get all the remains out of there. So just do it, and you'll have a really nice looking coil when you get done, and it'll be just like it was from the factory. So hey, if you like what I'm doing here, give me a thumbs up and a subscription, and just take a look at the rest of the videos I'm putting up, and thanks for going along on the ride. See you next video.